The posuk, as explained by the Maimer, like the heart, K'mayim ponim al ponim kein leiv ha'odam bel ha'odam. So the leiv ha'odam bel ha'odam explained first, and then he explained K'mayim ponim el ponim. Although he explained the leiv ha'odam ha'odam by invoking the moshel of the water too, that the seer, it's not just one heart responds to another, but the overture of the heart to the heart leaves an impression on that heart, like the image in the water. But at any rate, what we need to make clear is as follows. Oh, Yossi was just talking about you. You're on. Okay. I was just asking about you. Okay, so he said that Leva Odo, you tell me, friends, fill in the blanks. What are the madrigas you're talking about? Leva Odom, La Odom is talking about what? Who are the two Odoms here? Sorry? Well, there's two. Who are the two hearts?
Right.
Cain, Leva Odom, La Odom. So who's Odom 1, who's Odom 2? Odom 1 is us. Odom 2 is the Odom Alien, as you said. That's Hashem responding. And that madrege, we have to peg it because we've got to get the geography correct. Before we can understand the destination, we've got to define the destination, identify it rather, before we can experience it or understand it, to identify it. Get the right address. The address here is, no, tell me. So Leva, it's Adam Atachton, that's you and I. Adam Alien is? This is, okay, Atzilius is the Adam Alien. That's where the Esses Sviras first appear. Esses Sviras Agluyas. That's the Adam Alien. Friends, where do we find this notion of Adam Ha'elien B'chlal before Chassidus is revealed even? It's all based on primary texts. Where does this Adam Ha'elien come from? It's related. It's related, certainly related. But mamish the inyan of Adam Ha'elien. Navos Yecheskel, he sees, and Yeshaya, but Yecheskel particularly sees the image of the Adam Ha'elien on the top of the Kisei, the Merkava. This is all described in these two main divorce of Yecheskel and Yeshaya, on which whole Kabbalah is based. And a few other cryptic divorce in Daniel and other places. So the Adam Ha'elien is Atzilus. So we, impression, affect Atzilus. That's the first Chiddush. Then how did he explain, going back to the beginning of the Pasuk, that also is not just a moshel, but also refers to, just like Leva Adam La Adam is not just a moshel, but itself refers to the Adam Atacht and Adam, and it's referring to the man and the divine, and not merely one man to another. But at a deeper level, it's talking about Adam Atacht and Adam Elyon. So too, Mayim Panim El Panim, Pshat Lel is talking about the physical face in the water, but the Pnimis, what is it talking about? What's the water B'Pnimius? Ein Sof. Why would it be expressed, referred to as water? It's pshitus, it's simplicity, it defies color definition. Basically, color, tzir, shape, form, color, imagery. There's no imagery there, a more correct word. So now, what's Kamayim Ponim Kamayim Haponim Leponim? So who are the two ponims over here? It's a bigger chiddush. So anybody have to say something? In general, what's he saying? And that led to the question. It's a bigger chiddush, so why is it mentioned first in the pasuk as if it's more obvious, and the second part of the pasuk is more novel? But that question you'll ask only once we explain what these words mean. So kamayim haponim leponim means
Variance of an answer spheres.
that what?
Variance of versus answer spheres. So this is.
You're saying words I'm not sure what you mean. What does kamayim ponim leponim mean? There's a dynamic. What's the dynamic happening here?
Draw down Ein Sof through your Avodah Lamata.
Pardon?
Through your Avodah Lamata, you draw down Ein Sof.
You have to speak up. I'm so sorry.
Through your Avodah Lamata, through the Tachton, which is through Ha'ala Span, right? Through the spheres,
Okay.
you draw down Ein Sof.
It's not just drawing down Ein Sof. There's much greater chiddush being stated here, which is the whole theme of the Maimon.
Being effective.
We're impressioning. The Mayim Hal Yonim is being impressioned by Halos Man. Now, what has to be tweaked here is, it's evident from the Maimon coming is that the panim that ascends to impression the panim in the Mayim El Yonim, which is the Pshitas of Ein Sof, is Atzilus. But obviously, what trigger the ascent of Atzilus is our Aveda. The Maimon doesn't say this, but L'chora, this is what it means. We affect directly Atzilus. That's the ultimate Elyon. And that ascends Halos Man and impressions Ein Sof. End of the day, it's us setting all this in motion, but it's clear later from the Maimon that that is the mechanics of it. Quantum, physical, spiritual mechanics we speak of. Okay, so now the question is, so tell me the question of Tzarich Lahavin at the end of Eis Dalet. What's the question? We just said it a few moments ago, and I want you to repeat it back. What's the question? Do we have to answer? The pasuk says, "Kamayim panim lepanim kein leva adam la'adam." After I've explained what this means, but Pnimius, we're left with a question.
The Ein Arif in the comparison that we've been doing doesn't.
Which is the bigger chiddush? Leva adam la'adam, or it's much greater. What leva, it's incomparably so, right? Leva adam la'adam is the adam atachten affecting Atzilus. So that's a big gulf. But at the end of the day, as you said, there's a commonality. It's better. We use the very same words to describe our makeup as the Esses Vidas. Chesed, Gevurah. Whereas that Atzilus should impression Ein Sof. Now, true, Atzilus is, again, I'm just adding the caveat that Atzilus is ascending because of Rav Avodah. But at the end of the day, for Atzilus that's a Sviris HaGluyis, to create, that's a Sviris HaGnuzis, to create these hidden, Gonas means hidden, Sviris within the Ein Sof, that is absolute impossibility, and much greater Chiddush. As you add to the brackets, please find the square brackets that are critical to this question. It's right there in the center of that paragraph. What does it say? Someone look at it and tell me. It's a well-known statement of the Ramak. It's a Kabbalah statement. The Ramak, Moishe Kadavara, quoted in Placharim and by the Hillel on the Pardes. Okay. No, what does the Ramak say? A famous statement. Look at it in the square brackets, and number 31 in the text? There's a greater distance between, no? More than the distance between Atzi and Atzilus, which is worlds away, literally, is the distance between Atzilus and Ein Sof. Because in simple language, the gulf between finite and infinite is incomparably greater than the gulf between small and very, very big, or close and very, very far. So, include the question. The Pasuk is saying at the Pshat level, he starts off giving us like a simpler thing, just like A, and that we can understand pretty readily. Having understood that, so we'll also be prepared to understand B. But A is more novel than B. Kamayim Panim Al Panim is a far greater novelty than Leva Adam, La Adam, than Adam Atachten affecting Adam Elyon. It's be'erech at the end of the day. That's the question. Okay. I say, are we all following? Gents, I'm throwing a lot of words here, Hebrew words too, and I can just easily translate them. If there's something not clear, please let me know. You get up this early in the morning, you want to understand. Okay, so the guys in the zoo, it's a big turnout today, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, we're all good. Everybody's good.
Yes.
All right. We won't call you out by name, but
I'm speaking on behalf of everybody.
huh?
I'm speaking on behalf of everybody hiding behind.
Okay, it's just fine.
I can't.
It's fine. It's fine.
Was it a question, a comment?
Right.
Okay. Some things I can hear, sometimes I can't at all, and some of the difficulty. With Hashem's help, this will pass soon. She might want to answer this question by first prefacing that why is when you look at water, that you see the absolutely faithful rendition of the face that's facing it. How did my face get there? Dafka because of its simplicity, and dafka because it's divested of any color or tzir, its pshitus makes it a keli for whatever image you place before it, it will reflect back. So it's getting kind of an answer here. It's a paradoxical answer, but adrabah, it's less of a chiddush because that it can be impressioned because of its absolute transcendence of any form to begin with. So therefore, it's a keli for anything, as it were. In brackets, square brackets. Square brackets means, again, explanatory note. If you look at something that already has an image, color and image and form, that image would not allow, contradict, not allow any other image to be reflected there because there's an image there already taken.
Would hide or
34, what?
A sicer is like, more like hiding it.
Is what?
Hiding it.
What would you say?
Hiding.
Fighting it? Okay. Hara 34, he says, it's note, what do we see in art? Paintings are done on white backgrounds. Because it's of all colors, it's the simplest. Therefore, all other colors can be identified on white, but not against other colors. Because they have a tzir already, so they're a stir to another tzir. So therefore, we're going to answer our question. Therefore, in the mind panim leponim. So the Indian of mind panim leponim is opposed to lev adam lodam, which in brackets is what? Reminding Ashalidei Allah's man. Through Allah's man, again, that's specifically Atzilus, but again, triggered by our Avodah. Nas it's Tzir Beit Sof, that makes it Tzir Beit Sof. Well, Poshet Yosef, that's more understandable, meaning the level Adam la Adam, then our heart stirring another Tzir. You might want to say that. So the Rebbe says, true, but that just makes another problem. But this explanation, which is true, demands further explanation. Why? What's the point? Let's analyze what we're talking about. The fact that a simple, like again, the white canvas or the water in our case, every image that's placed before it is reflected back. Dafke. When does this work? The color and that which the color is going to be placed on are in the same category. The canvas, the white paper, or the water that's reflecting. It's a physical thing, water. It's going to reflect a physical image. As he says, they both have to be physical things, and one can leave its impression on the other. The other one is completely open and transparent. Both the Gashmias, the face is Gashmias, the water is Gashmias, the water is no tzir. So it's the keli for whatever image will be placed before it. Or let's make this moshel on the Ruchnizik plane, but you still need both components to be in the same sug. A very interesting illustration of this. Now the same thing would be true also on the Ruchnizik plane. What does that mean? He gives an example here, not Kedusha, but Ruchnis, spiritual. You're not talking Madregas. What do we mean? In square brackets. Al derech svara pshuta, a simple, transcendent idea. Shemitzat pshitusa, because of its simplicity, which means it's not hooked in particular directions. It's a transcendent idea. Therefore, the more poshet it is, it could end up there being articulated, formed. It can take it in the chesed direction, in the gvura direction. It can go in different directions, but ruchnius, if it is to begin with transcendent and kind of a universal idea, and then it can be taken in different directions practically. And you give illustration in the order in a second. Both of them, in this case, this example works because the svara and the implementation, chesed and gevura, are in the same realm. It's ruchnius, the world of ideas. Both of them, the idea and where you're going to take it, the tzir, are both ideas or ruchnius. So one can affect the other and be expressed in the other. Now, the example, of course, is the famous illustration of this is Hara 35. In Chumash, there's very deep ideas in traditional Mikra. In Parshas Noach, the end of Parsha Bereshit, the pasuk says, God says, "That's it. I'm going to wipe of mankind." Why? Here's the svara: because kol yetzim achshavos liber rakra. A person's inclination thoughts are all constantly evil and selfish. No hope for him. Destroy mankind. Shuar tam l'chayv. That's a reason to find us guilty. And the conclusion, Emcha, I will obliterate humanity. That's end of what? Bereshis Vav Hey. Shom Zayin, then in chapter 7. This very idea is the reason why God's going to find virtue. As the pasuk says, and then that was chapters 5 and 7. Now in chapter 8, pasuk 21, then God says, why am I not going to destroy? Because the same thing. From birth, it's not his fault. That's the way he's created. So what? I will no longer smite Right? So we push it, this interesting thing. We see this. So what's he bringing out? He's a mid question. He's building a question. To say that a dover haposhet is because of its pshitus, therefore it's much more vulnerable in the sense that it can go in many directions. That's true when the two things we speak of, the tzir and the pshitus, are in the same realm. Either begashmis, like water on a face, or the picture on the white canvas, or beruchnius, an idea and a practical conclusion of the idea. But in our case, let's continue. But the given, wait 1 second, yeah. Yeah, aval, yeah, but aval. After the aval, everybody has the place just below 35. Aval in shayech, but what is impossible is shebedovar aposhot, that it's something that is simple. That something of a different realm should be impression there. In the brackets, square brackets, continuing the illustration we just gave, you're going to have an idea. You cannot say, oh, that this idea now is assumed a red color, or it's white. It's nonsense. Physical colors just don't belong in the world of ideas. And the others, and likewise, conversely, take a physical thing, spiritual ideas should be impressioned in Maim Gashmim, Chesed and Gevura. A physical image can be, not a spiritual one. Leading to our question, so the Kiv and Sha'edin Safu Muvshit, important words coming, friends. The transcendence of the Eretzav will loirak meyatzir the sviris elagama mitzir the sviris. Eretzav transcends not just, well, it's infinite, so you don't have there the definition of 10 sviris, but even the mitzias, which means the whole gather of possibility of sviris, in brackets. In Inyan Ruchni, it's not like you can't get Inyan Ruchni colors or objects. Practically, the whole Metzias, it's just not in the same realm, it's a different universe. It's not that just that in practicality you can't, it's not going to be there. It's not possible. It's Moshe from the Metzias of Sviris. Sviris means that there's a definition. The infinite is absolutely transcendent. There can be no grasp in it. You can't have a tzir there. How do you move shit? The Sviris. It's totally beyond the world of Sviris, not just the tzir itself. It's not begetted. So our question remains now, even if Atzilus, it's started by Sviris, that Olam Atzilus should make an impression in Ein Sof, but the question still remains. In other words, we haven't answered it. The answer we gave works in things which are in the same realm, but not when things are not the same realm. But clear? Steve, another moshel to clarify further. Not the two inyanim here. Not just the mushut from the tziyah, but mushut of the mitziyas. I mean, the mashal speaks for itself, but right, I think it's clear, yeah. Hey, this may not even help, but just saying, like in social interaction, there is a gather when, a relationship between one person and another, where it's one thing is that your feelings, your behavior doesn't affect me, is one thing. The next level is your whole like Matthias, that's not in my world. You don't make a difference. Never mind, your feelings don't make a difference to me. You don't make a difference. That's a whole different, gulf. Follow? Something not to be impressioned by someone's, what they say, what they do. But the Matthias is some value. There's a person could dismiss the other person, not just what he says and does. It's all Matthias is not to get. Actually, it's in Hayom Yom that Marshall, that in the world of the Chacham, the simple person just doesn't exist. Not his opinion, he doesn't exist. It's all a Marshall. And then when this Chacham asks him to do something for him, he creates his identity by acknowledging and asking him to bring him something. Okay, so we're left with that question. So what's the net result of that question? The net result is that the pasuk says, "K'mayim panim el panim kein leva adam la'adam." So I would expect that the first part of the pasuk is more pashut. It's not seer in Ein Sof, and then you say also leva adam atachtan adam elyon. That's more readily understood. L'chayre. The explanation, in light of that which is known, everything is known, friends. I'm expected to know all of this. Okay, there it says like this. Sorry?
Is this beer bazeh on the previous place or on the original question? Did we just knock down?
We tried to answer it and we rejected it, so we'll get back to our question. Yeah. How is it's much more novel. Why is it the first statement as if that is more readily understood? It's not. Explanation is in light of that which is known as let's step back a bit, says the Maimon. Says the Rebbe, the fact that we affect anything above, that's not a given. And in brackets he says, now we were saying before that it's begeder, our avodah, because we are in the same realm, that's what we were saying, as Atzilus, 10 kochas hanefesh, 10 sfiras. So he says, no. That we should affect Atzilus, there's no logic to that either. Even though Tzir and Tzir, Adam and Adam. Why? Because the created being is incomparable to the creator. Now let's just unpack this for a second. I hope what we're saying is correct. True, the Eibush is beyond Beire. God's not a creator, right? It's a decision that Hashem made to descend, as it were, into the plane of Beire. But even Beire, creator, is incomparable to Nivra. Creator is the 10 Sfiras. That's the creative force. This, particularly the last 7 that creates every day of creation. As you learned with your children or yourself in the Bar Mitzvah Maimon, first introduced to this idea. That's incomparable. Creator and created being are incomparable. Never mind later in Sof. Atzilus. So how do we affect Atzilus? So he says, Api Seichel ein mokim sha'avodas hanivroim te'orer. Api Seichel, there's no room for, there's no logic to the fact, there's no place for this, that the avodah of the created being should arouse, and he adds in brackets, tifel shinui, should make a change. No, change, that's a very shocking word. Didn't we learn earlier there's no real change? We'll see in in order 38 in a second. Banyonim de la Maila in above. The change he means, I'll just tell you right now, is that there should be a response. I'm shocha, not a change that, but even to respond. Who you? This is the original. Who you? Let's just finish the sentence. So there's no mokim and seichel. So why does it happen? Bim bom, answer. So there arose in the primal thought of Adam Kadmon, which means when God first articulates what he wants with this whole project called creation, Shalifne Atzilis, that precedes Atzilis. That's where he articulates the machshava. What's it all for? Hello. What did Hashem articulate there? What's his all of machshava? What's his decision? It is the avodas hanivroim, that through the avodah of the created beings, that we should affect Atzilus. So here we get the answer. How does it work? Because God so decided. There's no logic to it. Now, just looking at this tifel shinoi, we're affecting a change. 38. The gam kisheserusa de le'ela. Even when the awakening of above is sheti amshacha lamata, I'm not talking about a change there, but the whole thing is there should be a response down here. That too is a change. There's an awakening above. Okay, we're going to respond. I'm going to respond back with tzvidus. Sure, that's a change. That's a change right there. That there's going to be a response. And especially as we said before, we said before, invoking the marshal of the water, that the response from above, that above allows for it to be impressioned. That's already like even more intimate response, change. Not changing, but I'm allowing you to impression me. Still me, but you're impressioning me. Okay, whatever the subtlety all this means, the fact is there is a response, there is a change. How could there be between Boyle and Nivra, between Atzilus and what we do down here, worlds away? The answer is because that's what God decided, that Avodah should affect Lamayim. That itself is a chiddush. So what changed now is that we kind of said, well, that's understood compared to the Ein Sof, and he says, no, that's not understood either. Atzilus. Let me make it clear. Atzilus is infinite relative to us. It's infinite chachma and infinite bin. It's infinite. It's boyd. It creates yesh ma'ayim. Created beyond our ken. That we should affect Atzilus, not in the alien. Therefore, let's continue. So for us to affect Atzilus, that's not logical. It's just the divine decision. How much more so is that true, bringing the mind upon him, that Atzilus, which is a tzir, should affect Pshitus? That's also, how much more so, only possible because of the divine desire. Again, it's triggered through us, but the process is that it's Atzilus, that this causes an arousal above in the supernal waters, which is in the pshitus, which is higher than the level of Adam Elyon. How could that happen? That is for sure. Obviously, that much more so. That's because only the divine will. Because the essence of Hashem, for which there's no boundaries at all, limits at all, decided that his infinite revelation, will be impressioned by the essence of his Datzilis. Conclusion, we'll stop here. There's going to be a big V'yesh Loimer. But so far we're saying, we're stepping back and we're adding something that we didn't appreciate before, that even Leva Adam, Bala Adam. That's not a logical Ileva Olol. That's because Shekin Ola B'Ritzoyne. Just remember, this was said at 4 o'clock in the morning, or 5 o'clock. It's maybe later. No, later. No, around that time probably. Shavuos night. So be alert. Okay, have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks all for joining. If there's any questions, anything not understood, please reach out to me. You can do this privately too. Happy to try and respond.